pilgrims have been killed so far. Pilgrims from many countries are among the victims. Now, Riyadh is facing growing criticism over the catastrophe, with critics questioning its ability to manage the annual Hajj pilgrimage.
Two days after a catastrophic stampede in the plains of Mina near the holy city of Mecca, there are still fears of a dramatic rise in the death toll. Pilgrims from Algeria, India, Indonesia, Iran, Morocco, Pakistan, and the Netherlands are among the dead. Saudi Arabia has blamed what it calls undisciplined pilgrims for the tragic incident. But survivors of the stampede in Mina criticized Saudi Arabia's mishandling of the crowds and discrimination in helping the injured.
People in the crowd were dying. When Saudis wanted to help, they discriminated. They ignored blacks. They didn't care about them at all. They also ignored Shia pilgrims. They only cared about the small group of people who were white and Arab and tried to get them away from the scene. Discrimination was also rife in the hospital. There was no equipment or medical attention, and pilgrims died in the hospital one after another.
The Mina tragedy has sparked mixed reactions. The Secretary General of Lebanon's Hezbollah movement called for an investigation into the deadly incident. Syed Hassan Nasrallah attributed repetition of deadly incidents during the Hajj pilgrimage to Saudi officials' mismanagement. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani called on Riyadh to review Hajj regulations to ensure the safety of pilgrims. During an emergency cabinet meeting held on Friday, Iranian First Vice President Eshaq Jahangiri said the Saudi government must be held accountable and that Iran should be part of an inquiry into the catastrophe. Meanwhile, the Islamic Human Rights Commission says the body has decided to launch a probe into the catastrophic incident in Saudi Arabia.
The Ummah and the quarter of the world population needs to know what has taken place, and there's no more room for Saudis hiding and their dirty work and their incompetence. They need to come clean. They need to come clean also because all the circumstances that led to this.
However, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threw his support behind Saudi Arabia despite a barrage of criticism that holds Riyadh responsible for the tragedy. He said he doesn't sympathize with anti-Saudi criticisms and defend Riyadh's management of the Muslim gathering. He said critics should recognize the difficulties of holding such a massive event. But Erdogan's remarks seem to cut no wise to purge Riyadh even inside Turkey, where the opposition has criticized Ankara's meaningful silence on the deadly stampede. This year's repeated mishaps and the bitter memories of similar tragedies in the past years seem to bear a clear message for the Muslim community. Perhaps it is time for Muslim nations to remember that the sanctities in Saudi Arabia belong to the whole Islamic Ummah and that they should play a more active role in securing the gatherings of Muslims on various events, particularly the Hajj pilgrimage.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has expressed deep regret over the recent deaths of pilgrims. During that stampede, Rouhani has urged the Saudi kingdom to investigate the tragic event.
I offer genuine condolences to many families who are mourning the loss of their loved ones and emphasize the need for swift attention to the injured. I also called for an investigation into the causes of this incident and other similar events in this year's Hajj pilgrimage.
The Iranian president was addressing a UN summit in New York. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has issued a statement over the deadly incident. Mohammad Javad Zarif addressing foreign ministers of Muslim countries whose citizens have been killed or injured in the Mina incident offered condolences to the victims' relatives. He expressed hope that Saudi authorities will understand their great responsibility to hold the Hajj in a proper manner and use the experiences and advice of other Muslim nations. Iran's prosecutor general has also announced that he will take legal action against Saudi authorities over the death of Iranian pilgrims.
This incident is absolutely prosecutable according to international law, and Al Saud must be responsive. They have to know that we will pursue a trial of Al Saud for the crimes they have committed against the pilgrims through international courts and organizations.
Well, We're crossing over to Vancouver, joined by international lawyer, Mr. Alfred Webre. Thank you so much for being with us. That you have heard about this tragic situation. Do you think that there are grounds that a case could be filed as far as looking at international law is concerned?
Yes, most certainly. We have to note that the Iranian state prosecutor, Ibrahim Raisi, has stated that the incident is subject to prosecution and that they plan to hold the Saudi Arabia family in international courts and organizations. Now, from a legal point of view, I believe that there are a number of avenues that Iran could pursue. One, I think, would be the avenue that is most ideally suited to this is the International Court of Justice, known as the ICJ, and that is the court is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. The seat of the court is in The Hague, and there are many legal disputes between nations that are settled there, and either by arbitration, negotiation, or by actual lawsuit. So that this dispute is ideal for that. And I believe that the grounds could include criminal negligence. If there is any evidence of any untoward activity within Saudi Arabia or its intelligence agencies and or other parties, either maliciously manipulating or intentionally triggering or provoking the stampede, including the use of covert neural weapons, which we know the United States may well have transferred to Saudi Arabia. Now, in the interest of balance, I have to say that since we know that neural weapons exist in the United States may have transferred them to Israel and or to the UK, which are also the principal backers of ISIS. So I just want to, as a lawyer, state that the facts have to be investigated, but nevertheless, the legal liability here lies with the Saudi Arabian government. I believe that the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, they could have a case at the International Criminal Court against officials, Saudi officials. There, they're not going so much for damages, but to really secure the imprisonment. There, you would have to find fairly heavy-duty evidence of direct use of neural weapons that or other intent. Say, if there were a radical Sunni element that wanted to target Shia pilgrims within Saudi Arabia, and they took this action as a provocation, as actually an attack against the citizens, that would qualify as what we call crimes against humanity and also genocide, because it's specific religious warfare.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're out of time. Appreciate you being with us. Mr. Alfred Webre, international lawyer out of Vancouver. And of course, when we talk about different sects, we're talking about, I'm sure he meant the takfiris as opposed to Shia Sunni differences. Now,
I apologize for that.
Royal family.